Yo, everybody, welcome back to the Realness. I'm grateful to be here with you guys. It is 2019, and goddamn, it feels good to be alive. I don't know if you're feeling that, but that's where I'm at right now, and I feel like you should be there too. And I feel like this podcast is going to help you take one step towards being more fucking stoked to be alive. And shit, I mean, maybe that's why I do this. I don't know. We got Jules Vaccaro on the show today. I'm going to call her Jules. Jules is just a way cooler name. It reminds me of 10 Things I Hate About You, and I really dig that movie. It's one of my favorite rom-coms of all time. Fun facts about Connor. Anyways, guys, we're talking about wellness. We're talking about intuition, intuitive eating, body obsession, food fear, and Jules shares her story from how she got from basically obsessed with food and her body and having a really unhealthy relationship with physicality into the place where she is now, which is just fucking killing it at coaching people and creating a healthy relationship with themselves and their body. And spoiler alert, it all really comes down to self-love, but we go through that in several different avenues. And Jules does such a great job of providing resources and understanding as a gateway to developing a relationship with yourself, with your inner self, and letting go of the things that just don't serve you anymore, and how much that affects your physical body and your physical well-being is really, really aggressive, for lack of a better term there. Like the way that we believe we should be and the things that we should have and the way we should feel subconsciously manifest in our physical bodies. And Jules has a really empowering and articulate stance on sharing that with people. Such a badass chick. I'm super grateful that she's in my life. We talk about a few things that are fun, like Myspace and friendships, but we'll get there. You'll get there. Before we jump into the show, I want to share what we're working on with the Realness, because again, this show is brought to you by the Realness and all the realness things that the Realness does while we're out here realnessing. A couple things, guys. The lifestyle design program. If you're listening to this show and you're thinking, damn, I need to create a deeper relationship with myself and understand where I may have an inner clusterfuck happening. Well, that's what the lifestyle design program is all about. 8 weeks, one-on-one work with me, video calls every week, and every call is followed up by something called the work. That is a rundown of our calls. It's where I write out kind of where I feel like you're at, what's going on, and also the work portion of the work, which is strategies, resources, and practices that I'm going to keep you accountable for as you go through your life. This has been something I've been doing for a couple of years now, and I'm absolutely in love with the work and providing you with the work. And yeah, it's all around just a fucking awesome time. So if you're feeling like something's maybe a little bit off, maybe something's missing, maybe you just want someone to hold space while you can just say whatever the fuck you need to say and dig into yourself, the lifestyle design program is for you, my friend. It is for you. Also, something else that might be for you is the Realness Retreat in Costa Rica. That's right. We're going down to Costa Rica. We've got 20 spots open. Registration just opened as of yesterday, as of January 2nd. Registration is open, guys. We're heading down to Soltara. We're going to be doing 3 ayahuasca ceremonies with Shipibo shamans. That's right. There's more information on the Soltara website, and I'm going to link that in the description as well as the lifestyle design link. But if you're feeling called to explore with Mother Ayahuasca, and you want to hang out with me, my friend Kirsten Asher, and my soul brother Mike Salemi, well, the Realness Retreat is for you. It's not for the faint of heart, I will say that, but the food is amazing. The accommodations are really, really nice. They did an amazing job at Soltara, and I'm extremely grateful to be, one, affiliated with them in any way, 2, taking a fucking group down there, and 3, doing it with 2 of my best friends on this planet, when Kirsten and Mike. We're going to be doing some fitness-based movement and stretching and getting into the body that way. Kirsten that's Mike's thing. Mike is a movement expert and just a generally heart-centered dude. And then Kirsten is a embodiment dance specialist and kind of an empowerment coach in her own right. So between the 3 of us, we'll be doing some dancing, moving, and then I've got a little gift for you guys too when we get down there in my connectedness practice. But I don't want to share too much. I don't want to give you too many details. So all those links are in the description. Lifestyle design, Realness retreat, and after this podcast, I feel like you're gonna feel bodied up. You're gonna be feeling ready to make some shifts. So yeah, let's get into this thing. Jules, here we are. We made it
up?
All the way from Instagram to real life
to the
podcast. It's like, I think Instagram is about 2/3 of my life at this point.
Yeah,
That's where all my friends live.
Agreed. Totally agree. I feel like all my friends are scattered across the states and not in my hometown.
I know, it's exactly how it goes. That's why I have to travel constantly to get anywhere. I have to go somewhere.
It's for the podcast.
I'll put that on a meme. Everything's for the podcast. The content's king these days.
It is. It takes priority over.
They say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Agreed.
I think you're actually the average of the 5 people whose content you engage with the most on social media.
That's like the modern version of that quote.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
It's how to win followers and influence your following.
So you got to say top 5. Top 5.
You remember MySpace?
I for sure do.
Top 8?
Yeah, that was like a disaster for friendships.
Oh, that was it. There's been nothing else that ruins more friendships than the top 8 on MySpace.
I will never forget I called that. I remember seeing that pop up and I was just like, oh no. This is going to be so shitty.
Your 10-year-old self was like, this is so fucked.
I don't like where this is headed.
Like, who did that? Who was in the MySpace headquarters, and the MySpace layer was like, listen.
They were like rubbing their fingers
we're
together.
Killing
like,
it. It's like they had like some serious childhood trauma. There was like, I don't want anyone to have friends. I want everyone to fucking hate each other.
That's so mean.
Do you remember the music that you played on your homepage?
No, but I remember making AIM bios with like Bayside and like punk rock quotes. Like
punk rock quotes?
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah.
Give me one.
I don't know. I feel like I was super into Bayside and like Panic! At the Disco.
Dude, were you a Fall Out Boy fan?
No, I was never too much into Fall Out Boy.
You didn't have enough edge for Fall Out Boy. Fall Out Boy was too much for you.
Oh no.
It was too dark.
It wasn't. It was way too preppy.
First off, chill, okay? Pete Wentz is an icon, all right? Just because I was a Fall Out Boy fan, I still low-key am a Fall Out Boy fan.
I believe you.
I can't help it. I flat ironed my hair.
I believe
that college.
Too. Yesterday.
like I just forgot it, or it would be flat ironed right now.
It is kind of straight, man.
I wore a beanie though. I found other ways to go. I found a more holistic approach. It's beanies and not ever drying my hair. Yeah, and podcast hats. Yeah, no. I mean, I feel like Fall Out Boy is a big point of my life. There was a big part of my life that was like identified by Fall Out Boy and Breaking Benjamin.
Those were two ones that I was never super into.
Well, you're wrong.
I'm trying to think.
You missed out. No, it's nice to have those phases, though.
It is. It's super different identities.
Yeah, I feel like some of these social media platforms too. I mean, all of them like hyper focus on our lack of genuine connection in the world, but just bombarding you with a bunch of like stimulation in that part of your soul. Does that make any sense? So we generally, and we talked about this, I think we talked about this on the show several times, it is hard to truly connect via a phone screen, right? But it doesn't. Your mind doesn't know it. Your brain doesn't know what a phone is. Right. Your brain doesn't know what Instagram is. Doesn't know. That. Yeah. So it's
starting to.
I feel like we're evolving that way. We're a little early.
Our pinkies are now growing.
Are they really?
Yeah. My friend was telling me that like the way our hands are shaping are like. I think the way we're developing, our pinkies are like growing outward because of the way the iPhone sits, and your like pinky sits downward.
Oh yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it just tends to stretch for sure. But we have all the indicators there, like the superficial indicators are there. Okay. Like you have voice,
right,
visual, right? Like it's interesting, and that's why I made the mistake when meeting people that I knew from their podcast, from Instagram, from whatever it is. Like I try my best to go into meeting those people with the most blank slate I can and be like, let me see how this is going. And that really became super evident when I was was a young lad, and I was friends with some guys who had a really, really successful podcast called Barbell Shrugged. It's like one of the best strength and conditioning podcasts ever at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we would meet these people that were going to be on their show. And I started, at this point, I'd done mushrooms once or something, so I was pretty woke already. I had dabbled.
It's just like the one requirement. I did mushrooms once. I was woke.
I was just like, I could have been enlightened, but I chose not to. I was like, I'm just going to keep lifting weights.
Mm-hmm.
But so I would meet these people, and sometimes I'd meet them before they knew who I was.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd meet these people that were going to be on their show before they knew that I was friends with the guys that were hosting the show.
Right.
And they would treat me so much differently than they would treat the guys who were hosting the show, because I wasn't like,
right.
I had nothing to offer them.
Status.
And I started really observing that and really appreciating and respecting people who treated you the same no matter what.
Hell yeah.
Like there were some guys, like Travis Mash was a guy who was just like, just a good-hearted dude all the time. You know, my buddy who passed away a couple years ago, Chris Moore, was one of those guys. Just like, and that became so valuable for me, just seeing that the gap between how people treat a normal everyday person. Maybe they get approached all the time, and I get it, and then somebody who can make them more popular.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like high school. The podcast world is very similar to high school.
I feel like that's just the way the world can be.
Can be or is?
I'm going to not be cynical like that. And I choose to see what I want to see. So I think that it can be that way in times.
Yeah.
When you want to call that in, if I'm going to go into that woo-woo realm.
Oh, we're going there. We're going so deep.
Yeah.
Into the woo-woo world. This is just the fun and light banter at the beginning of the podcast before it spirals into the deepness, the deep darkness. So
the realness, the deepness episode.
The realness, yeah.
Dun dun dun.
I wish I had the rights to some Fall Out Boy and some Panic at the Disco. We would play it in right now, subtly underneath everything we're talking about. So you have the pleasure of being in the wellness space.
I do.
I would call it the wellness. Like does that resonate with you?
It does. It feels good.
Yeah, good. And that's a fun place to be, because so many people, and it's trending now, from like going from a very externally validated existence to. You
love the word validated.
I love the word validated. I wrote a post about it today on my Instagram at Connor Wanderers. Hit that up. Give me some validation points. Double tap that post. So no, but there's like there is this.
I'm gonna put an ad in right here for my post. It was delivered at this time specifically.
It's cool. It's black and white. It's pretty dramatic. No, but I think, and maybe this is me projecting this, but a life that's hyper focused on who you're perceived to be, and transitioning into a level of self-understanding. And I see that so much in the fitness realm more, and maybe that's because I came from that world too, but you had to have some kind of body awareness to move, right? And if you're a competitive athlete, like, and breathe and be present and play the game. You know, if you were into aesthetics, it's still a certain level of body awareness. And I think when you can flip the switch and turn that inward, there's a lot. You have a capacity for understanding your physical body. And you can take that inward. It becomes very powerful, in my opinion. Well,
I think that's what led me to, and I feel like you would be able to relate to this too, but I think that's what led me to the extremes, because I feel like at the end of it, it's just the energy. It's energy. It's so much pent up energy and so much passion and like, I guess, energy. I can't think of a better word. That's being directed into something, and if you don't know where to direct that, it's usually going to be taken out on yourself. Or I think that's what I found, and that's what I see a lot in my clients and the women that I've worked with, and just women in general. I find that it's turned back on themselves and on their body, and yeah, and so I think that energy can be so powerful if it's used and guided in the right way, and so we need to be guided back to ourselves and back to that truth.
The truth. Oh, the word truth. Slippery motherfucker.
I had to throw it in there, you know.
So what was that comes from, and you strike me as the type of person who really teaches from experience. So I'm assuming that came from an experience in your own journey. So what did that look like for you, from where you were to, okay, I feel called and competent and confident enough to teach this to people?
I like that question because I feel like it's been a
I
really
ask good questions. It's part of the it's part of the thing. It's a bit.
Let me just validate myself.
It's just self-love. Hashtag self-love.
Okay, so what helped me find that? I like that question because I feel like that's something that I've been I've been reflecting in that a lot lately because I feel as if I've really found that voice and found that as of recently, or more so in the last 6 months. And I think that what's been most impactful is being present and also just fully accepting myself and where I'm at, and finding stillness in myself and being quiet with myself and learning how to shut out that external noise and those external distractions to step back into my lane and trust that lane and reflect and know. And so I think that it was a process for me, because I think that I started out 6 or 7 years ago and started with an intention, which is the same intention that I have now. And it's so cool to be able to look back and see how that path was so windy and how it led me to where I am now, which I know is exactly where I'm supposed to be. But the intention was there. It was the same focus that I have now, but I wasn't sure. There was still so much unresolved emotion and experiences within me. There were so many lessons that I needed to learn. So I feel like the last 6-7 years was like, okay, you're gonna fucking learn this the hard way. And I know that was just part of the purpose, because I feel like I beat the shit out of myself for that time, and I learned how to stop beating the shit out of myself. So now I get to help people do the same thing.
It's so funny how much we beat the shit out of ourselves, emotionally, physically. Like, you're gonna find a way. Mm-hmm. If you're disconnected from yourself, you're gonna find a way to like slam your head into a wall until the wall breaks, or most likely you decide to stop for some fucking reason. Yeah.
Well, I think, to go back to your question though, what I think it helped me grow, it was time. Because it was like 6 years of me finding that voice and trying and going different routes and going down all of the different avenues until I just slowed down and was like, okay, I've done all of the things. Now what do I want to really focus my energy on, and how do I want to blend this into something that I really want to create and take with me in myself, but in my business and in my teaching? Like, what have I learned that I can really turn around and help others transform their experience the way that I did?
I feel you there. I mean, that's something that was so similar to my journey into this too. Is like, you and I both come from a fitness background and teaching in a fitness background, whether it be like, I think you yoga, boxing,
personal training.
And for me, like coaching, strength and conditioning, and weightlifting, it's like I had to do it. Was my whole 20s were invested in just doing all the things. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to travel, I'm going to compete, I'm going to coach, I'm going to own this business. I had to check all these boxes to realize, okay, I was kind of at the end of the road. Mm-hmm. And I had this interesting kind of thought come to mind when I was in the gym, actually. And I was looking at this and saying, if this thing is as successful as it can possibly reasonably be, right? So I looked at that and I'm like, all right, that means like 200 or 300 members, probably 2 locations. Mm-hmm. I'm probably making X amount of money. And I ran this list. I'm like, and if I had all those things, if all of that happened, would I be happy?
Yeah.
Would I be happier than I am now?
That's the big question, though.
And I was like, I'd be more stable than I am now, and I'd probably be more comfortable than I am now. Mm. But that, I don't feel like I would be happy. And then I was like, okay, well, what would it take for you to even get there? Okay, so that's 6 years probably of no vacations, not having a family, like not just like living in this space, and this like it was the first time I didn't have the language for this at the time, but it was the first time that I consciously chose not to make those sacrifices. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the most beautiful things about life is that you get to make your own. You get to choose the sacrifices you make if you're present for it. Right. And then I opted out of those sacrifices. I'm like, I'm down. I'm down to sacrifice something for a bigger thing, or for something that feels more aligned to me.
Right. I think that's the key.
And I've sacrificed stability several times, but it wasn't for that end.
Right.
And it was actually really fucking liberating. Mm-hmm. And I'd gotten, I think a lot of it comes with age too.
Well, I think the other sacrifices were aligned just in what you were prioritizing at that point. And so
it all had to happen the way it did.
Right. For you to find the voice of.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Like what, and then ask myself the question, why do I actually do this? Mm-hmm. And that was really strong for a long time. And then it started to not feel, I didn't feel it as deeply in my why.
Like the connection to it.
It gets shifted, but I was ready. Mm-hmm. Like it was almost like I was in an incubator. Like, this is the language you feel really good to speak,
Mm-hmm.
right? I can speak fitness. I can speak through strength conditioning. I can be entertaining. I can resonate with people. I'm learning what the word empathy even means, not
Right.
much less trying to embody that, and then taking that into, okay, cool. Well, now you've 10 years later, you've been a teacher for a decade, from 19 on,
Right.
and then that's not counting like coaching Little League and shit that I
Right.
did. Just it was always a part of my existence. So when I look at it now, I'm like, all right, well, here I am. Now what? And that's a really fucking cool place to be. A really cool place to be. And one thing I want to go kind of jump back to is your relationship with your body. And I think that I love your story here, and I'd love for you to walk us through it from your like aesthetics and a physical appearance to the way that you achieved those goals and what that felt like for you. Like, what were your goals back then, and how did you go about figuring that out? I know there's going to be a handful of clusterfucks in there too. There always is in a good story.
Right, I know there's pockets of goodness in there. Make sure you touch on those.
Make sure, the really painful parts. Let's touch some nerves here.
So I started with fashion and art, and so I think that I was always very aware of the female body and what was attractive to culture and society, and what we were supposed to be as female and represent and have small and large and all of these things. And so I think that it started at a really young age, this is body consciousness. And I've done a lot of work around just like childhood stuff, and I was really trying to get back to like my core desires and what I was like at that time in my early years. And I remember having that at the very, like, my youngest of ages. I remember like dancing and singing and having that consciousness, like not consciousness, that just that self-consciousness. I'm not sure if I've pinpointed it yet, but it was there and present for forever. And so I think fashion was the start of it. It was like that really small look, like bony. And I did whatever I could to get there. I mean, it was in high school and not eating and whatever. I went through all of those disordered eating patterns to get to where I wanted to be. And it was always cyclical. And a lot of that was me, maybe, emotions. Like, and I'm talking about all this stuff because that's what I see in clients too. It's either emotions that are not being worked through, or home stuff that's not being worked through, or just insecurities and limiting beliefs and all of that stuff. And so it's usually cyclical because it's not resolved. If we're not like conscious to it and working through it, it's not resolved. So I didn't work through that, and I was always going through these cycles. And then vegan eventually was like on my radar, and I was like, that is what I'm going to start. Vegans are always small, man. That was my thought.
Vegans are super fucking frail and little bitty.
I was like,
I'll be able to fit into everything.
Tiny. I can totally pull this off if I'm vegan. So I was like, all right, let's do this. So I picked up like the book Main Street Vegan, which is an awesome book, and I like dove right into that. And then I decided I wanted to take my career in the health and fitness direction, and I applied to be an RD, and I was going to Tampa to be an RD, and then I like quickly changed my mind. I was like, I don't want to be in clinical settings. Like, this is so not true to me. Like, I always felt this like entrepreneurial feel to me. And so I decided I was going to go to holistic health coaching school. I broke into that. Then I started becoming raw vegan. And so
what does a raw vegan day look like? What's a day in the life of a raw vegan food wise?
Yeah. So I was vegan when I was in New York, and then I moved to Tampa. And so I think that was a big factor for me because of the climate. Like, I was learning about seasonal eating and all that stuff. So the climate was supportive of that. I was participating in CSA, so like community supported agriculture. I would go to the farms around me and go get my own crops, like organic veggies. So what a raw vegan eats, I'd wake up and make probably juice. I would juice whatever freaking vegetables I had. They were awful mixtures. Now I've like just stick to celery juice, and it's great. I don't fucking experiment with that shit anymore. And then I would usually have like a smoothie, lots of salads, beans. I remember getting a lot of alternatives, and this is a lot of, I think that's another big part of the story of why and how I coach and approach my clients and my work now, is because even during that time, like, I was extremely fucking healthy. I was juicing, I was eating everything organic. I would not touch anything that wasn't organic. I was doing all of the things, and I ended up getting extreme adrenal fatigue, and it was because I wasn't eating enough protein. My blood type is O. I'm also an advocate for the blood type diet if it fits and works for you. So basically, my body type does well with that. And so, while vegan can be healthy, while raw foods can be healthy, anything in excess is not balanced. And so that was what I found out. And so again, it was all part of that process. And when I started adding meat back in, that was when I discovered bodybuilding, and I was like, I will be that girl on that stage with that pro card. That is me, and I will be happy then.
So getting the pro card became the goal then.
Yeah, and I just took a total turn. I moved back from Florida to New York, and I remember I started to prep right away. And the next 3.5 years, I just went pedal to the fucking floor. I feel like I started prep and I never really stopped. I mean, I had off seasons, but I would never.
What do you mean by prep?
So competition prep for bodybuilding. So usually my preps would be 3 months. Well, so depending on where you at, what you look like, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, how much muscle you have, how much fat you have to lose, when your show date is, how good you want to come in is what your true goal is. So preps could range between 12 to 16 weeks, sometimes more. I mean, I've done 20-week preps, or if you have a really long season, you might be doing a 16-week prep for your first show and then 4 weeks to the next show. So I never really took a structured off season. And so I was just in that I can do this forever. I can eat this shit all the time. I can do this. I got this. And so I was one track minded. And eventually nothing was ever enough. Nothing was ever enough. And especially when you're chasing that external, that's what you learn, right? The external is never that key that's going to give you that fulfillment. So I chased until I realized that wasn't gonna work.
Yeah.
And then I decided, okay, let's go inward. Let's do the warrior shit.
This journey in. It's funny how that works. Looking back on the things that my mid-20s, early 20s self would do to play. I mean, it wasn't easy. I knew the cost. I don't regret it.
Play, yeah.
Yeah, it was so I went early in my competitive days, and I went into the CrossFit space to compete. That was and weightlifting. It was something I knew I was capable of doing well at.
Mm-hmm. It was guaranteed success in a way.
I knew I was going to go for it.
Right.
And quickly found out I was a little bit big for it, so I adjusted my goals as needed, and did better than most people. I was really proud of the work that I put in, but early on it was you look at this stuff now, and the way people compete in strength and conditioning is it was like the Wild West back then. We had shitty coaching, shitty nutrition advice. I was super low carb paleo and training super high volume. Just destroyed my endocrine system. It was fucking tanked. I went in to get my testosterone checked, and I was like, something's up here, because I'm not making progress. Even my coach was and I was paying $300 a month for a coach. It was to this day, Trini Think Tank and Max El-Haj is his name. Mm-hmm. To me, the best coaches in the fucking game.
Right, and they know what they're doing.
Exactly. Yeah. And it was a super high priority to me. That's all I thought about. It's all I did. Even going home for Christmas and taking a few days off, 3-4 years ago, I would at least get one workout in on Christmas Day. And I had a key to a gym in any city I ever went to. And if I didn't have a key to a gym there, I probably wouldn't go.
Right.
That was my world.
Yeah, it was very similar.
And when you're doing that high volume, it just takes a lot of time. Mm-hmm. Doing 8 500-meter row repeats and then a 30-minute conditioning piece takes 3 hours.
Yeah.
And that's your AM session. That's your fucking AM session. And you just get it in. And it's that's all you do. Yeah. Exactly. And
it's a culture.
Exactly.
You get roped in. It feels good at first.
Yeah. And then you're 25 years old. You go in and okay, well, your testosterone is at the level of a 95-year-old man because you fucked your shit up.
Surprise.
And it's and then you get an ultimatum. It's all right, well, you have a really practical conversation with someone you trust, and my coach and where I was at. And now in that world, it's he can't, my coach isn't going to tell me to take testosterone, right? It's here's your fucking real solutions. You take 3 years off and fix your endocrine system.
Right.
Which means gain a little bit of weight, get a fuck ton of sleep, prioritize that, and don't compete.
Right.
Or you take testosterone and then compete, and we'll figure it out in a few years. Mm-hmm. Which option do you think I chose?
Yeah.
As 25-year-old self. I'm going to fucking take testosterone, which wasn't the first time I had done it. I had dabbled with that stuff in college, but it's funny now to see my decision-making process where now, and it's easy. I never got it illegally. Always got it through a pharmacy. Always got it from the doctor. Blood tests every month. Again, it just became another part of it. It just expanded what I did.
Right.
It was the next thing. I'm doing this now. And I have a ton of friends that are still taking testosterone. And that was almost 4 years of being on testosterone. And it was fun. It's funny because you feel it changes you in such a way. Like looking back at it now, and a friend of mine, we were talking about this, and it takes away your natural cycles. Like you don't think that men have cycles, right? But you have a hormone cycle.
Yeah, you're freaking human.
It takes it away from you, so you don't have the same like emotional way in a healthy way, right? Like some days you feel good, some days you feel like very grounded, some days you're like super hyper, like that. All that, it was just one state all the time. It was like go do the thing. It was, and even my friends now that I know that are still in that world, it's like I think that's just their natural state of being at this point, a decade in, right? And coming off, it was like fucking brutal. Like can't fucking get it up. Like new girlfriend couldn't get it up. Like I thought I was like, this is, it's like this the weirdest thing. Like sex drives to shit. You're getting soft. Like your ego is just like poking at you all the time.
Cry
like
for the next like 2 weeks.
Or you do cry.
Yeah, no, I've seen it. I've seen it. I think
it's crazy.
I think that makes me really happy that you bring that up, because I feel like we get into denial about like the effects of what we're taking, even if it's mild. I mean, I was in the industry, like in that world for 3 years or more. And so I knew, everybody in the gym was taking stuff. I was taking stuff when I was competing. And it's just like they're in denial. I'm just taking this little bit. It's fine. And like, I get it. You will be fine. Your body will probably be fine. But like, you really don't know what it's doing to you on a cellular level long term. And you don't see yourself outside of your body. I feel like I've witnessed it. I've witnessed the personality changes, and it's substantial.
Well, I think on a cellular level, people. And then neurologically too, it changes the way, because you're always you're in that mode all the time, and like neurons that fire together, wire together, that becomes a component of your identity.
Right.
And it's the same thing with anything. It's the same way the way you look at food,
right?
The way you go about it. If you're like even in that binge and purge cycle where that's super aggressive, that becomes a part of your identity. Like that's where you're fucking, if you've decided to do that enough times in a row, it becomes
freaking pattern behavior.
Exactly. So it's like if you coming off of that, you got to know, like, I'm gonna have a year of real emotional instability, and that's okay. But you got to, again, if you don't know that, if you don't know that, it's like you're gonna be emotional in a way that you haven't been before, because testosterone will blunt your emotions.
Because your hormones are just going to be...
And then, on top of being emotional, you're going to start to lose the thing that you worked the hardest for, and there's not a fucking thing you can do about it.
That is it's like the most humbling freaking experience.
Looking back now, it was really, like, I had to learn how to articulate myself and, like, explain what was going on, and I had to be even more aware of my body through it. But
which is totally why I want to not lift for a month, because I'm like, all right, you've done that. You found your balance. Let's go more.
Yeah.
Let's do some more.
We worked out the other morning, and you could probably tell that I was like a little bit frustrated with what I was like not capable of doing. But it's still
yeah,
like,
but there was still peace in it.
Yeah, it just is what it is.
And
But I've found success in other parts of my life. But without that, it's like this is a decade of my life.
And I think it's difficult to detach from that identity. I think that's the hardest part. I think that was difficult for me, because it was like it becomes your identity, and socially it's valued, especially if you work in the industry. So for me, it was people were seeing me going through my competing, and of course, I love when people share their opinions, but it's like when you're in prep, it's like, oh, you look so good. And then you come out of prep and they're like, wow, you look so sick. And then you're like, go back into prep and they're like, yeah, you gained a lot of weight during your off season. It's like, what?
It's like everybody's a fucking critic constantly.
But you really learn how to handle other people in a way of handling yourself. Like you learn how to respond appropriately, and like what to take, what's most important to you. And I think, I don't know where I was going with that, but there was.
Well, I think one thing we're talking about here, and this is kind of at a high level where it's competition and competing in something, whether it be aesthetics or performance. Those are the extremes, I would say, and it's different if you're going to the extremes and you're winning, right? And you're like, this is like my job,
right? It's
different if you're going to the extremes because it's like you're so attached to it,
right? That's the end all be all.
But for most people who don't compete listen to this podcast, it's this is where you become hyper aware because it's so extreme. right? But this stuff is subtly laid out in normal day-to-day life, and I see that
Right.
even now. So when you bring this back to this kind of awareness game through this whole experience for you, and then turning it back inward, what was that like for you to start to put shine the light inwards, right? Like do the shadow work, like get into yourself. I feel like there's some low-hanging fruit always. There's a couple of those like, oh, that starts to click, just because I actually turn the headlights back in towards the motor, you know?
Yeah. So what did I like? What was it like to turn inward?
Yeah. Like what were your big noticings going in?
I think it was like it was all catching up. It was like I had to slow down, and I made the decision, like you said, winning and going that far. I could have been an option. I think that I could have gotten my pro card. I was at a point where, okay, you can either do bikini or you can do figure. And I had done bikini, and I tried one figure, and I kind of was in between both categories. And it was either stop training for bikini, you can't lift anymore, you're a little too muscular, and if you want to do figure, you got to like hop on a bunch of shit. And I was like, I've already done some shit, and I don't want to fucking do anything more. Like I didn't want to do either. And so I had to make the decision. It was like a really uncomfortable decision. I don't know. Sometimes I think back of like what I wish I could remember choosing that self-love. I think that it was just me like breaking down over and realizing like you're not doing this for you anymore. You're not training for yourself. You know, when you're doing bikini, you have to like lose your glutes if your glutes are too big and your legs are too big. So I would have to like shrink my legs, and I'd be like, then you spend your whole off season retraining your legs to grow. So it wasn't even in alignment with what my desires were. And so I think that's just the definition of contrast. Like it was contrast for me. It was showing me and pointing me into the direction of where I was supposed to be going. And so I got back in touch with those desires and started to just slow down. I knew that I needed to heal my body. I knew that it couldn't be pushed anymore. And so I slowed down, and I got really comfortable being really, I want to say, unhappy with myself. And I think I just need to be real about that, because I think a lot of people find that, oh, I just get really, I have to just find happiness in the unhappiness. And it's like, sometimes it's like that. I feel like I'm at a point like now in when I grow through things, I am that way, but it's not always like that way. I think when you start to really have that first pivotal like shift in your life and really decide to turn inward, it doesn't fucking feel good. And I think that needs to be like told to people, because it doesn't always feel good.
No. It's not supposed to either.
Right.
It's like where you've hidden your shit there that you don't want to see, and when you see the shit you don't want to see, it's like, fuck.
Well, that's the thing, and I think it's important to showcase that it gets easier, because like we've done a lot of unpacking, and so now it's just maybe other patternings that come up. But I think that going inward, it was me recognizing that I had buried it for so long. It was a lot of worthiness, a lot of enoughness. It was just different. I noticed that whatever it was that I went really extreme with was always just to fill that same void of not being enough. And I think, you brought up the physical body. I think I've just always had that body awareness. And so that was always the avenue that I took it out on myself towards.
Yeah.
And so I had to learn to be nice to my body. I had to like learn to, like law of attraction, point out the things that I loved about myself outside of my body, but in my body, of course, and like train my brain to see that every single day, and surround myself with new environments, and just like interrupting behaviors, like changing up my routines, doing that thing. And it would bring up stories and beliefs and things that maybe I hadn't previously noticed, but because I was making those behavior changes and those modifications, it brought up things and I could see. Yeah. And then I just would sit with it and journal with it and just change it. Just decide like, this is not going to be the way it's going to be. Yeah. I think that's a big part of it.
It's so funny. I love that the way you said that. And something I did down in Costa Rica. So my fucking brother at this point, Mike Salemi, who's just a super heart-centered guy, and we both resonate on that. He's still very much in the fitness world, and we had this kind of workout to work in type thing that we love to go on rants about. But I have this journal that a girlfriend gave me like, I don't know, a little over 3 years ago, and I call it my oh shit journal. It's like when like somebody dies or a breakup or an ayahuasca journey or something
Heavy.
big happens.
Dense.
You know, it's like that's
Yeah.
right. And I have this like this one journal for that. It's leather bound. It's like this really, I fucking love that thing. And we were walking to go get lunch or something the first day we got there, and he was like, dude, I opened up my journal to the early pages, and he was going through a breakup where there had been someone cheated on him, and it was like really, really challenging for him. And he goes, the guy that wrote those, I don't feel like the same person who wrote that down. Like what I was feeling, what I was going through. And then I realized that I had stuff like that in my old journal that from like 3 or 4 years ago. And literally it's funny because journaling is like one of the biggest components of what I speak about now. And the first fucking line in that journal was, I'm not really sure how to do this. And I was talking about journaling. I was like, and then people get held up on this. Like it's these new practices. It's like, just be okay. Like I don't fucking know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
but it seems like a good idea.
Right.
And I think the third or fourth line was, I don't really know how to be happy yet either. And it was so to know that like I at a point in my life had written that down through going through. That was like when my gym was closing, and it was so heavy for me at that time to be able to go back and literally see that and then see where I am now and like how I view myself and view my life and view the rest of my life. And that led into the ayahuasca experiences that we had in Costa Rica. And it was so powerful. And I think that going back and being able to understand like when that shift happened and where you were at, being objective about that, it's really, really powerful.
Yeah, it is cool. I mean, so I feel like I've done a lot of like childhood work stuff in the last like 6 months, and I feel like I brought this up to you before, but I went back and like read a journal entry that was from like 7 years ago, and I think it was right after I had graduated health coaching school. But like I said, I needed to work through my things, and so I think it was really interesting to reread that journal entry and to like feel the emotion and to have the awareness, but I needed to experience it. I needed to work my way through it and feel and find my way. And back to that first original question, like what makes you sit in that confidence and feel that clarity in where you're going? It's like you have to trust the process. I didn't trust the process for so long, and I spent 7 years not trusting the process, and now I feel like I've like arrived just because I just see now, like, okay, it is all happening the way it's supposed to happen. This is all part of the process. And so you like just open your eyes, because it's all those opportunities you're looking for are right there.
Yeah,
they're right there, but I was trying so hard that I could not see them. And I think that's a lot of the way we live as a whole.
I was trying so hard that I couldn't see them. That's so funny.
You know?
It resonates.
But it's
That's
so true.
Yeah.
It's so true. We're literally just blinders.
Yeah.
Even like asking for help. I put out a podcast episode about this. I wasn't asking for help because I thought that I thought I was supposed to know it all, like all on my own, figure it out on my own. I needed to have it all together. It was this perfectionist mindset. And when you do that, you close yourself off to your healers. You close yourself off to relationships and friendships and anything that can help guide you, because you're just in your fucking bubble and you're I got this.
You're not open to any new experiences.
Exactly.
And that's the thing. I mean, that's the biggest part of the work that I do with lifestyle design is let's fucking pattern breaks are a big part of it, but let's broaden your boundaries of experience, dude, because I know that like when I track down, and we're going to talk so much through the lens of fitness and body image, is that growing up, when I was in the 6th grade, I remember being like, I was about 6 foot tall almost. I was probably 5'10", and like 200 pounds. And they were like, you know what? Like there was a select group of kids who, and I actually think this is a good move on their part through like physical education and PE, would go lift weights. Like some people would do like a running thing, they would go lift weights, and I think it was a way to like boost confidence, because you would just get fucking destroyed going to like run a mile with these guys, but you could lift and you get good at that. And it was something that it was like, but internally there's like 10 of us in there, and it's like, oh, these are obviously like the fat kids,
right?
And they're like, yeah, you guys suck at running, so go in there and like bust some weights, fat ass, you know. It's like, yeah, but it felt like, you know, it kind of felt like that. And it was always like, well, if I'm going to, this came up for me as you were talking, is if I'm going to be of value and be of service to my community, which was at that point growing up, like my football team and my high school and my parents, who it was like of all of that, it's like I have to do it by being the best.
Right.
I do it by being the best at this thing that everybody expects from me.
Right.
And you're trying so fucking hard that you put blinders on, and you keep on that fucking track. You're on the same fucking train track. But you don't have to be on fucking train tracks. Like, you're not a fucking train.
Right. Right.
You're a human being. We like move around. We can do things. We have flexibility. And I remember going through my whole career as a coach, so focused on owning a gym. Like, that was my thing. I was like, I'm going to own a fucking gym. I'm going to own a gym. Like after that, I didn't have any fucking plans. It was just get there, you know? And I realized how many opportunities and things I'd passed up that were fucking incredible.
Right.
Incredible opportunities. I was doing great work. It were so incredible, but it's because I had these fucking blinders on, and I was like, hey man, you can come do this thing over here. It looks like a great fit for you. And I'm like, oh no, thanks man. I have this thing that I'm chasing that I'll find out doesn't matter in fucking 3 years.
But I think
it's fucking crazy, but it's all part of the story because it happens all the fucking time. Money, looks, fucking status, whatever it is, like find out whatever that thing is in your fucking life that you seem to value so much. Get really fucking honest with yourself is huge, and then go find out where that shit came from. Like track that shit down to the beginning, and it's oftentimes not from you.
Right.
It's not you being like, you know what, I really want to do this for myself. It's not. It's generally not that way. I don't feel good enough in this area, so I'm going to compensate and show everybody that I'm like of value, or someone's like, you need to do this to be valued. And it's about being seen and understood. Right. It's fucking wild.
Well, I think that goes back to the conversation we had earlier today when I was saying we're all here doing the same shit. We're all here.
We're so different and so similar.
Yeah, but we're all learning. We're all going through the same lesson of like what we need to remember we're worthy of. We're enough, and so we spend like however long it takes for us to recognize that, oh no, we've been living under everyone else's like rules and confinements and expectations of who we are until we realize, wait a minute, I don't have to do this. And we're like all of a sudden awake. And then we embark on this next journey of like self-discovery. Yeah, I feel like that's just like it's all kind of like, and I think it goes back to like what you were saying in that it's all part of the process. It is all part of the process. And I think that's another piece that has brought me calm in trusting the process, is that there really is never a right or wrong. There's no right or wrong, and it's not good versus bad, because on like the bottom layer of it, right, like all this like happening stuff is happening up here in life, right, and then like the underlayer, progress isn't linear. And so like if you make a decision that's not truly getting you to your purpose, like closer in that next step, it's still part of that process, because you're not ready to learn that next lesson. If you were ready to learn that lesson, then you would have chose that path. And so you needed to choose that other path because you weren't ready to learn that other one. And so I think that's like, what you will need to learn will find you when you are 100%.
Ready. And that's one thing too, is that you need enough context on what's not working. And I did one of the first coaches I ever had, we went through this, and it was part of our journaling practice, which is now part of the lifestyle design course, is what's not working. Right. Just write that out. What's not working? What is working?
Right. And I think people are scared to admit that, though.
It is, but you got to get honest with yourself. And it's a great practice. Because that's why I love journaling so much, because you get to see that, and you can look back and be like, in all the things that I've done that felt like they didn't work, what was the common denominator besides me? I know me, but like what part of that? Like what was it? Was I scared of success? Was I scared of myself out there? Was I scared of being vulnerable? Like what was it? Was I, was I ashamed of having a voice? Was I for some reason, I see this a lot in women, is like, especially when they come from like a really conservative background, is I was supposed to be seen and not heard, right? So there's a lot of that, but you can see that if you have to have enough context though and experience, because if you never fucking go for it and inevitably fail, which I think is failing early. That's what I tell my young people that I mentor is, man, you're gonna fuck up. Yeah. Like just get them out of the way, but fucking go for it. Yeah. Go for it. Don't get yourself in a deep ass hole, but go for it and be okay with failing. Be like, all right, cool, I went for it. Like pat yourself on the back for that, and then dissect it. Understand where you were the common denominator of any problem.
I think when you talk about context too, I mean my brain automatically goes to broaden your range of experience by experiencing more, saying more yes, right? Like, but I think, and I feel like this came up a lot today, but just, it really does sometimes take those like getting hit in the head with a 2x4. Like sometimes it's not just experiencing. Sometimes it takes that low point to really to not be as tiptoey. What you do.
I wonder if there's people out there, and there has to be people out there that part of their like soul's journey is life's pretty chill and comfortable, and they're relatively happy, and they like wander into like a meditation studio, and they're like, oh cool, and then they like they are super invested into that, and it's like they didn't have the cosmic throat punch.
I'm not one of those people.
I'm not either. Like it's like one of those things I talk about reflection a lot.
There,
I think you have like experience, expression, and then reflection is optional until it's not. Until the world goes, boom.
Yes.
Reflect now, motherfucker, because you don't have a choice. And
those are my favorite.
The forced reflection is
Yes.
important, you know? And then you get better. It's like, oh man, maybe I should actually understand why things went the way they went and not become a victim of every fucking circumstance I'm a part of because I'm scared to take ownership of what I bring to the situation.
Aren't those like the best though? I
Yeah.
feel like I've grown to have this like really I've just learned to have excitement for those things in a twisted way. Like the other day I had this moment when I was coaching one of my BBM girls and I was like, you are now the coach that smiles on the other end when they have a breakdown. Like we were in a really great conversation and we were working through some food fear stuff and we were talking and I was just like, so blah, 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 blah. And what are you really scared of? And just breakdown, like snap of fingers just breaks down. And I just was on the other end like, and I just like, I like stepped outside of myself and I was like, whoa, because you know, that's where the growth is. You know that they're about to learn this really epic lesson.
Yeah.
And like, put your seatbelt on.
Getting into a place where you can ask those questions as a teacher, as a coach, as a friend. It is. And I low-key just broke the chair that I'm sitting in. We'll work on that later. Your brother's an engineer, so I'm sure
it's
he'll
for the podcast.
quality content. But getting to the point where you can ask those questions.
He's an aerospace engineer.
He'll figure it out. Getting to this place where you can ask those questions as a friend, as a coach, as a teacher, and inevitably you get to the point where you can ask them to yourself.
Yes.
Right? It's like, why am I... One thing that really gets me, and when you think about really like toxic relationships, it's like, well, why was I a perfect fit for that relationship? Somebody asked me that one time, and it was like, oh, fuck. I need to sit with that for a while. But there's an answer there. Like, there's something there. I gotta, and it'll come to me, and I'm gonna see it, and then with that, boom, behavior change. Right?
Yep.
I notice context. So important.
I think there is a quote. I feel like I might have brought this up, but it's like that quote. Like if you want to learn something, become a student. If you want to master it, teach it. Or there's a quote like that or something.
It's on a meme somewhere on Instagram.
It's totally not a meme. It's an actual legit quote, man.
It's a legit quote, only in books.
It's a legit quote.
It's in a leather-bound book somewhere.
It's just not the one that I just said because that was not the accurate one. But basically, I feel as if I really experienced that when I was boxing. Like I felt like teaching boxing was like, you see it from such a different perspective. And so now I feel as if that's a lesson that I've really experienced lately is like coaching my girls. And I'm like, it's so integrated into my life now that like, not that I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop because there isn't that. It's not like I'm like waiting for the next bad thing. I'm like, I'm waiting for something to feel bad because I know it's not, because I feel like there's just this attitude of like growth, like bring it on. I know it's a lesson. I don't know.
Yeah.
Is that weird?
I think that's called faith.
Is it?
In a weird way. Yeah, it is. It's like, it's faith in myself to handle what comes up, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And to me, that's what it feels like. That's what's coming up for me in this moment right now.
Yeah, but I think the excitement comes from the knowing that like something grand is about to happen, because it's the deepest lessons you learn when it feels that heavy.
Exactly.
If you're open to seeing it.
100%. And you brought up BBM, and I want to explore that a little bit. So you have a coaching platform.
I do.
And anytime I have somebody on who's a coach, which doesn't happen very often, you're in the. I feel my ego feels threatened by other coaches being on the podcast. I'm just kidding. No, but I want to hear from your people. Like what are your people? You know they're your people. I fucking love my people. My people are the shit. So I started having retreats. It's like low key for also like it's a great experience for everybody, but I really just wanted an excuse to hang out with all my people.
Yeah, no, I feel you. That's where my heart's at next.
Exactly. I know you're gonna be so great at that. But what are some of the common things? Like you're working with a ton of people. You're doing a fucking fantastic job. Like I've been super impressed in the time that we spent together, and the work ethic and the mentality you take towards what you do. What are some of the most common things that you see in the people that resonate with your message and seek you out?
Well, thank you for the acknowledgement first. Second, I think the biggest things are that it's never about the food, for sure. It's never about the food. And that I feel as if all of the lessons are applicable to everything. It's all the bottom line. Like it's just applicable to every area of your life, the way you approach it. And so I think that most people come to me for food fear. They come for body obsession. They come with this uncomfortability with themselves, in themselves, not knowing how to be in their body, not trusting themselves, not knowing how to listen to their inner guidance. And when they do, it's scary because they don't feel as if they can trust themselves. And so, yeah, we're talking about food, but again, like I feel like that's the common denominator, is that it's just this lack of self-trust and lack of confidence in it. And I think that it goes back to permission, but it's like we all need permission to trust ourselves and to love ourselves, to trust that intuition and to have that faith.
Yeah.
And you just do it by strengthening those muscles. And so I think that, you know, in BBM, that's what I see most. And I think that's the underlying teaching that I bring through, is come back to yourself. Like, my girls I obviously give guidance. There's a crap ton of education, but I give you this education because you, at the end of the day, make your decisions. You decide what's right for you. I'm not going to tell you what to do because it doesn't work that way. Yeah. And what's really cool in what I see with BBM as they go through the program is, again, I don't believe in telling you what to do or being super strict or any of that. Like, I feel like I've done all the things. I've coached all of different ways, but I've also experienced it in myself and in my own experience. So I really meet you where you're at. That's what BBM teaches you to do. And so I think what's cool and what I've seen lately in my girls going through the program is, like, I give them, and this is just like, and I'm saying because, like, it's me taking them through them, but it's just like in any coaching program, like, give somebody the space to express themselves, to trust themselves, to see themselves, and they'll find their way, and, like, give them that opportunity.
Well, it's empowering.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, it's funny. We talked about this the other day. You and I both, and I love that, and I think this is why we resonate so deeply with each other, is like, I don't want you to not have the resources and the information,
yes.
right?
Yes.
That doesn't, let's put that out. I'm going to give you all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, whatever you need,
yeah.
whatever fits, whatever resources, understanding, information you need, I'm going to give that to you.
Right.
I know where it's at. I can find that shit. I've been in this world for a long time.
Exactly.
That's yours.
Right.
I've got it all. It's all in Google Drive. Like, it's there for you. Now that's out of the way. Cool. That box is checked. You've got the information. Now everything else is you and me.
Right. Yeah.
And really, it's you.
Exactly.
Right? It's like, because I have no interest in taking your power away.
Yes.
I have no interest in doing this for you. Like, the most valuable thing, and it's funny when you talk about this, and this is why I don't necessarily I don't feel like I have a choice but to call myself a coach, because that's what in the world's like. But to me, a coach has the answers for you. Mm-hmm. And my goal with this, and I feel that you, I want to project this on you, that you have the same goal, is,
no, I think we've had that.
And it's that I'm teaching you how to learn, express yourself, and go about it in a way that's genuine to you, because it's different for everybody.
Right.
If I give you a fucking checklist, like, some of it might work, that's cool, and that might be good. Mm-hmm. You know, and there's a lot of people resonate with that. Mm-hmm. But the people that seek me out, that's not the case. Right. And I fucking love that approach. I think it takes a certain type of personality to do that, to then not need to be the person who's actually pulling the strings, right? It's like, you find the strings. I'm gonna help you shift your perspective a little bit. I'm gonna give you as honest feedback. I'm gonna give you the most valuable thing that I can provide for you, is a judgment-free space to say whatever the fuck you need to say.
Right.
And that's huge. And where else do you have that in life? Where else do you have a judgment-free space? Everybody has
Planet
a fucking... God damn it, that was quick. That was quick. That was
Her
good.
judgment, I was like, Planet Fitness.
Planet Fitness. But I would get judged in there for being too loud and grunting while I was squatting on the Smith machine.
Yeah, you probably would.
Yeah, but it's huge. Everybody has a low key subconscious agenda for you that you know in your life.
Yes.
Your girlfriend, your parents, your boss, like, they have a role in the sitcom of their reality. You have a character. I like to relate it to Friends.
And even if it's not, it doesn't even have to be conscious on their part.
It's not.
It's just their own shit running in the background.
And it's not wrong. You do that to people too.
Exactly. And that's why you need to just come back to yourself.
Yeah.
That just showcases case in point. That's what we're getting at.
And when you can learn how to have the space, or so you can teach someone that there is a safe, like you can how to create space.
Yes.
If you create space for someone, well then, and that's a big part of the lifestyle design course as well, is you're going to now create space for someone else to express themselves authentically. And there's ways to go about doing that.
Right.
Set that intention and see what happens.
Right.
And then you have, boom, there's deeper connection. Boom, there's more of an understanding of your purpose.
Yeah.
There's a stronger community. And all of those things, all of these components of this fucked up, crazy mess that we call life end up getting stronger and stronger and stronger.
Yes.
And it just becomes so much more fulfilling because you're bringing your actual self to the world.
Right.
And you don't have the excuse being food or temptations or a fucking Frappuccino at Starbucks that, like, for whatever reason, calls to you.
Exactly.
Because it's not about the fucking whipped cream.
No, it's not. It's not. And I think, I bring up the word adaptability all of the time when I talk about BBM, which stands for Balanced Body Method, in case you were
Balanced
curious.
Body Method.
One of my friends DM'd me once, and he was like, every time I see BBM, I think of BBW.
BBW? What's that?
Isn't it like big, beautiful women?
Oh, yeah. Hey,
I'm just dying.
that's the next course for you.
Nah. But anyway, whenever I talk about BBM, I talk about adaptability, because when you follow a diet, or you follow macros, or you follow anything with numbers, you're giving away your power. You're giving the keys to your car away, and you're saying, I don't want to learn how to drive. Tell me what to do. Like, just take me there. And you give all of your power away. And when you intuitively eat, which is what BBM teaches you, you're taking your power back, because you're making decisions that are right for you. You're in the driver's seat again, and that empowerment and that confidence just pours over into every other area of your life. And going back to the adaptability piece, like, you don't have the ability to learn what you need. And so what worked for you 5 years ago isn't going to, this again, food and not food. What makes you happy now isn't going to make you happy in 5 years. What you ate 5 years ago isn't going to work for you now. And so it's like your duty here is to learn how to be with yourself and be successful with yourself. And you need to be adaptable to be successful. And so following a program or following a plan that tells you what to do, whether it's like this coach thing that you're saying, right, tells you what to do, they're not helping you. Like, get the education and the support. That is the key. And learn how to understand yourself from the inside out. Boom. In every way.
Damn, that's some good content right there. So real quick, before we wrap this thing up, let's talk about in BBM. What are the nuts and bolts? What are when you talk about education information? Like, what are you providing?
Yeah.
And that on that side of things.
Sure. So I'm laughing because it's my podcast is Excellence Over Perfection, and I just want to deliver all of it. So I feel like I put in so much content into BBM. Yeah. I'm like, where do I start? I take you through the 5 steps that make up BBM. So the first step is called Foundations, and I take you through a process that goes assess, define, create, which is past, present, future. And we really get deep into your subconscious, like what limiting beliefs you have, what old stories are there for you, what you believe about your body, what you believe about fitness, what has been like so stapled into your subconscious and is blocking you from actually finding your own path physically, nutritionally, and fitness. Like for example, okay, I can't eat carbs past 7, like classic, right? Or I need to do cardio to get to this body.
Yeah.
So there's some surface level things there, because we, don't want to jump right into the
of course.
stuff.
It's like, let's expose your soul on day one.
But we are working a lot in the mindset piece of it. And so just as you need to clear out the old to make space for the new mentally, we do the same thing physically. And so we really work on, again, working from the inside out. And we do that through working on your internal health. And it's like a little triangle of systems. So the liver, adrenals, and gut health are the 3 main priorities of what we focus on when it comes to the physical body. And it's, aesthetics is important, and you get the aesthetics. But if you want the aesthetics and you want them to last and you want them to feel good and you want them to actually like feel good when you're there, you have to approach it in a healthy way. And so, yeah, know the aesthetics is the goal, but like go for what really matters, and that's your health. Give your body what it needs so it can give you what you want it to look like. Yeah. Give your body what it needs so it can give you back what
you need.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the thing too. You're walking around in this meat suit. It's like, take care of it. And that's, I think there's a big part of the information where you're looking at talking about gut health. Like a lot of people don't understand how important that is.
Yeah.
Right.
That's just like a huge piece of.
And we can talk about it's so funny how
your physical body responds. And when you get more in tune with that, your physical body responds to your energetic environment, and that's I'm sure we'll dive into that in the Q&A podcast we're going to do tomorrow morning. Yeah. But there's so much there to play with. And I think it's really cool what you're doing. And
thank you.
I'm super stoked about you. And then now we've officially have a third podcast guest on your lap, dozing off right now. Bro, we got Woody the dachshund.
Woody the wiener
has joined us. What's up, buddy? He's zoned out. Anyways.
Conked out on my lap. But no, so gut health is a huge foundation of it. And then hormone health, and we do some liver work. I think hormones are a huge part of it. And I think a lot of people have symptoms of hormonal imbalances and other just shit that's going on in their body, and they're not recognizing that it's their food. It's your food. It is your food. And you can eat really healthy and have it still be the food, because it just proved that, the raw vegan thing. Yeah. And so again, learn what's right for your body, and and starting with your gut is the key foundation for everything, because everything else is a follower to that.
Well, it's all downstream. And I think when you talk about hormonal health, we were talking about testosterone and fucking with your hormones, that plays a huge role in your decision making process.
Yep.
It plays a huge role in your mood and your clarity. Yeah. And that's something that I think is super important, and for everybody it's different. Like personally for me, I love intermittent fasting. I think it's great. It keeps me super clear, but that's come from years of experience, right? Creating more and more context. Right? If I have carbs in the morning, I just I don't feel as clear throughout the day. Right? And that's my own. That's it's individual for everybody. And I know people who fucking hate that.
Me.
Yeah, and it's like neither one of us are wrong.
Right.
Yeah, but it's about having someone I had someone to bounce that off of and learn from, and then be like, what do you think about this? This is how I'm feeling. Yes. What's your experience in that? Creating more connection and having someone to explore that with is extremely empowering. To give you permission to
trust yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Boom.
But I think that it's also important. I teach this in BBM too. It's not going to be the same every single day.
No.
That's the thing. You can label it whatever you want. Does it really matter? No. Because you're not doing it every day.
Well, it becomes intuitive. It becomes intuitive for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think going back to what you were saying with symptoms and brain fog and how it's affecting all of that, right?
Yeah.
And how I was saying it's always this same bottom line message. The food is not separate than anything. We have to address all of it together and look at it all together, because what's showing up in your body is a reflection of what's going on internally. And so your body is trying to signal and showcase what you need to see that you're not seeing. And it gets louder when you don't listen. Yeah. It's going to keep getting louder. And so I think when you said brain fog, emotions
and hormones.
Yeah. And I just got this vision that your brain is foggy for sure, but your brain's foggy because your brain is foggy, therefore you're choosing the foods that are going to make you more foggy. It's and so if you are addressing your feelings, you're going to choose the good food. There's a synchronicity there that can't be overlooked in
so
healing.
True. Yeah. Well, Jules, this has been some fun content adventure.
It has
been. Where can everybody find you at?
My Instagram is Julianne Vaccaro, so JulianneVaccaro, kind of long. And then I have my own podcast, which is the Excellence Over Perfection podcast, the EOP podcast on Insta. And I have some IGTV episodes up there. I'm on my story a lot.
It's popping off.
Insta's my place to hang. I like it over there.
Kick ass. And all those links will be in the descriptions, you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out.
Thank you.
Yeah. We'll see you next time.
Sounds good.
Peace.
That's the show, everybody. Go check out Jules on Instagram. She's literally popping off. Homegirl is providing content for the world that I feel is super empowering, super impactful, and she's fucking vulnerable as shit. The girl has just got it going on. She's actually headed out to my home, to my crib. She's going to be hanging out here with me, doing some more podcasts and some more fun stuff. If you're feeling like you want to ask Jules a question, well, hit the podcast hotline, guys. You can do that at 1-800-315-3218, or better yet, go find me on Instagram. That's Connor Wanders, Connor with an E, Wanders with an A. Hit the call button in my profile, and that'll get you right to the hotline. Just leave a voicemail, any questions you have about dating, lifestyle design, some shit that you're going through, maybe some weird situation that you're in at work or in your relationship that you want some clarity on, and someone just to bounce that idea off of. And I'll bring that your way. Also, remember, guys, the Realness Retreat and Lifestyle Design links are in the description. I hope this year is going well for you so far. We're getting close to a weekend, and I know there's a lot of resolutions out there and intentions for the year. This can be kind of a mess. It can be kind of a mess. Sometimes New Year can be a way you just set yourself up for failure because that's a pattern in your life. I know I've fucking been there, and that's something that I try to pump the brakes on for sure and be really, really aligned in the way that I'm setting myself up. So if you're feeling like a little bit of a gap between where you is and where you want to be, I'm here for you, my friends. Playing you out with a song called Stayed by my girl Whit Blue. Go find her on Spotify, WITBLU. Hit the hotline. Enjoy the fuck out of your life. Be nice to each other. We will see y'all next time. Much love, hugs and kisses. Bye-bye.
If we can't stay together, then let's just stay the night. We don't need forever, 'cause right now feels so right. We've both seen the dark enough to know the love's the hard part. You look great at calling late, right around 4. I used to hate the way you made me feel like but there is no way that I could say no to you. Yeah, there was no way that I could say no to you, because I wanted you so badly and you knew. If we can't stay together, then let's just stay the night. We don't need forever, 'cause right now feels so right. We've both seen the dark enough to know the love's the hard part. I couldn't wait, and so I stayed outside your door. 'Cause I was numb and you were fun, and we were young and dumb enough to stay together. And words were light and nights were long. We were young and dumb enough to stay together. Can we stay together?